Hey everybody, morning, happy coffee. So there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on with me personally as well as with the team, and we're trying to get some stuff going. And I also wanted to tell you, as a lot of you know, I'm the author of 9 different books. You can find me at harrisforsenate.com, and this little box right here takes you to Substack. The reason why I had to go to all of that is because it seems that when I was trying to relay some information that I thought was important and that other people have asked me about as a former journalist and author and other things, it seems that I'm saying things that make politicians uncomfortable, or the people who run the platforms uncomfortable, or somebody else is uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to know. So I'm starting to use TikTok Live exclusively as far as the initial broadcast, and then we're going to download all of that with the supporting information. And don't worry, I'm not going to try and read that all to you today, but it's going to end up on Substack so I can give you the citations and the fact base of where to find what I'm talking about. Fair enough? Okay, so I'm going to be sharing with you the facts and findings, but right now I'm going to offer you my idea in what we have found out. Okay, so before I get started, I want to tell you something. So in high school, I was a football player and a wrestler. When I got out of high school, I kept eating like I was a football player and wrestler. And so after a couple of injuries and some other stuff, I was pretty active when I was younger, but I kind of slowed down after I skied off a cliff and did a few other things. Yeah, anyway, so I kept eating that way, and then all of a sudden I didn't fit in my car. The front of my car, like between me and the steering wheel. I couldn't even, it was hard to turn the steering wheel, which is bad when you're driving. So somehow on the way back from Texas, I figured out how to undo all of that. And so about 3 years ago, I started eating smaller portions and eventually started working out at the gym. And now, so this coat was the name of my company 40 years ago. It was sold, but a lot of people still remember it, so I kept the coat around. Buttons can now see each other.
Awesome!
Yeah, it's the buttons can now see each other, and I'm still losing weight. And instead of being this wide, which means I wouldn't fit in this chair behind me, I am now this wide. So working on it. Now the other part about that is I'm not bringing that up to brag. I'm bringing that up because that's the way I operate. I keep working at something and working at something and working at something and working at something. And if I find out I've gone too far, okay, I go back the other way and I work on it and I work on it and I work on it and I work on it. This wasn't done with surgery. This wasn't done with diets. This wasn't done with anything other than my resolve. So when I go to the Senate and represent you, okay, now I'm going to be elected in the state of New Hampshire, but every U.S. senator represents you, okay? So you should at least go to harrisforsenate.com and find out what I'm planning on doing. Fair enough? Oh, and I was very much involved in labor and working a job and unions and all of that. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Not my background, what's going on. So every politician loves to stand on the factory floor. They love to go out and stand with a line crew or show up on a picket line. That's like primo photo op. But here's the thing, okay? If rich boardroom type people had their own political party, they would actually only represent about 3% of the U.S. population. You can look that up for yourself, by the way. It'll be in the citations. About 3% of the population. But if you look at, according to Congress's own statistics, that would be that representation of the 3% of the population is actually 50% of Congress. That people who have either worked for or taken money from those individuals. So maybe when Democrats and Republicans are passing things like right to work, which is a way to screw the unions and has nothing to do with a worker's ability to work because they don't care about that. Okay. So my union roots. My dad, Stevenson Charles Harris, was one of the first people in the country to bring a power line crew into the IBEW, and he did so in Seattle, Washington. My brothers followed in his footsteps. I come from a union family. When I went to college, I worked with the Carpenters Union as a fourth and lead on construction jobs. I was a little bit disturbed by when I had my own lighting and sound company that I showed you, that the union that I wanted to bring my entire 40 employees into, I approached them. They showed up with hired picketers on my front doorstep of my business, maybe because it had good traffic or they were just being stupid. So I'm not saying that unions are perfect. I'm saying that that's the best representation we currently have for workers in America. I am not trying to say that you have that kind of representation in Congress right now and haven't had for a long time. So let me ask you a question. Are your wages, your life, your stuff better for the politicians that have been in office, or do you want one that actually comes from where you come from? My name is Tim Harris. I'm running independent, and I will be New Hampshire's next senator. And again, I'm going to put all of this on my Substack, which is substack.com/@TimLHarris. Okay? Or you can just click on this little thingy here. See how technically advanced I am? That's called a thingy. Now let me say something along those same lines, but a little bit different. Even the Bible said the worker is worthy of his hire. And what's that? 2,500 years old? Okay. But we seem to have lost the idea of the rightness of work. I didn't say rights to work. I said rightness of work. There's a lot of stories I could tell. I could spend hours on what it feels like to take somebody who's an inner city kid, I've done that, and teach them how to build a bird box. And it ain't pretty. But they built it, and they take it home, and they show it, and they're proud of it. Okay? There is something wrong that we don't see that. I've never seen a coder or a programmer or a branch manager or someone who works at a bank have that level of pride, where they've made something with their hands, whether that's a steel frame. I have seen women brag about putting their bed together all by themselves. Okay? Not a bad thing. They did it all by themselves. They should have some pride about it. But the problem is, and I'm going to need my notes for this because it's got some dates and stuff on Most people who weren't raised around animals don't like them. Kids that don't go camping don't appreciate the outdoors. If you've never dragged a hose or worked with your grandpa on irrigation or been around water or seen what water can do, what's the chances that you're going to become a plumber? Okay. So, when you get old. So around 1978, something happened. There was a decline in people showing up to work for the trades. Fewer apprentices, fewer young people learning to work with their hands. Something else disappeared at that time too. That's when they took all of the home ec, all of the shop classes, all of the trades, all of the craft associated arts out of junior high and high school. Remember what I was saying a second ago? If you ain't exposed to it, you're not going to be into it. Is that like super science here? All the auto shops, all the wood shops, all the metal shops, every form of industrial arts taken out of junior highs and high schools across America. In California, they passed Proposition 13 in 1978, supposed to restructure property taxes. It resulted in a 60% drop in school funding. Guess which classes got cut? Anything relating to shop, building, creating, crafting. By the mid-1980s, of the 4,800 shop teachers left in America, the average age was 55, and nobody was volunteering to step in. These are all facts I'll cite. In the 1970s, Seattle had shop classes in most public schools and more than a dozen middle schools. Today, maybe only 4. And those are for kids who are failing out of not being a robot. So, can you guess what happened next? An absolute unbelievable shortage of electricians, carpenters, framers, plumbers, HVAC technicians, welders, or any other frickin' trade. And if you're in the trades and you are in a union, could you do a like, hey, right on, yeah, that's true, or whatever? Because you're living it. The construction industry needed to attract about 500,000 new workers in 2024, just to balance the supply and demand. In other words, those people that were leaving versus those that are coming in. They needed 439,000 in 2026. Where do you suppose those are going to come from? %70 of supervisors in the electrical industry are baby boomers. When they go, they're taking decades of knowledge with them. Over the next decade, 1.9 million manufacturing jobs could go unfulfilled if we don't solve this. What's wrong with somebody working for a living? I realize that nobody in Congress does that. Oh, wait. They work really hard at cashing their check, but they're not doing anything to support the trades, to support trade education. Okay, this isn't just about inconvenience. This is about the future of our country. We are in the middle of a housing crisis, a climate crisis. We've got infrastructure bills that are supposed to rebuild America's roads and bridges. We've got an energy transition that requires skilled hands. Who's going to do that? So any homeowner, property manager, anybody knows that buildings require maintenance. How easy is it to find one? As a homeowner, look, I know some of this stuff, but I don't know all of it. It took me 11 months to get an electrician to do a simple wiring job for me. Okay? And these are really, really good paying jobs. Really good paying jobs. The real cost is that we might not have what we need. Did that soak in yet? We might not have what we need. Okay. If the average person in the trades is 50, what's that? Assuming they don't hurt themselves, or they haven't already hurt themselves, or they aren't too tired to do it all the time, that means we got maybe 15 years before we're out of tradespeople. It takes, in almost every trade, I believe, 4 years to become a journeyman. So if you've got somebody who's stuck on the couch, maybe you need to have an electrician come over and put like a beep, 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 beep. Okay, so my father was in the IBEW. He climbed poles, strung wire. I ran a business for 25 years. I know what it means to work with your hands and build something real. The rightness of work isn't something you need to read about or something you need to feel when you see something you'd like to get done. This is actual real people. This is real issue. When you solve a problem that nobody else could solve, when you look at a house and know the lights are on because of you, there is a level of pride that is unparalleled to anything else. I have people that I buy from. Clothes, might get my hair done. When I'm sitting on the Senate floor, they're going to be able to say, "See that guy?" The point is, I need to be on the Senate floor for you. We need to have somebody who knows what it means to go to work and get some work done, which is something that Congress seems to have altogether forgotten. Yeah. Crickets and crows. Maybe we should change the name of the parties. Okay, so I've got 2 pages of citations for all of this. And you're going to be able to look at it at Harris for Senate and or the Substack right here. Okay, I want to tell you a story. Boys and girls, maybe we should change it to that kitty voice. Okay. Part 1. A story that never happened. Let's pretend, boys and girls. Let me tell you a story. We'll call it fiction. A long time ago, say 8,500 to 100,000 years ago. Yeah. There were people who built things we could barely imagine. They understood water and stone and energy in ways we're only beginning to rediscover. They engineered, they calculated, they created. And then slowly, somehow, they forgot. They forgot that they needed the people who built it in the first place to stick around long enough to fix it when it breaks. Not all at once now. Gradually, the people who built things became less important than the people who managed things. The people who worked with their hands were looked down upon by the people who worked with abstractions. In other words, not real things, boys and girls. Knowing became something you owned, not something you passed on. And one day, the lights went out. The water stopped flowing. The systems failed. The server farms had nobody to fix them. and nobody remembered how to fix them. 1,000 years later, 100,000 years later, someone found an artifact from that civilization, a piece that didn't fit the accepted timeline. You know, when they're telling you what you need to know instead of what's real. And it was quietly corrected, filed away, explained as impossible, and then put in a tub under a museum somewhere. Because that's what we do with evidence that makes us feel uncomfortable. And this is fiction, of course. So that wasn't prophecy of our society. There's actually been ancient civilizations who've been found. And what happened to those civilizations? By their own records? Oh, and I'm going to include the citations, by the way. Do human beings have the habit of repeating themselves? Do you want somebody who can at least make sure that somebody who can fix the dam when we need it? Do you want somebody who knows what a 2x4 is? You need to send me to Congress. All of you. Go to my site, whether you live in New Hampshire or not. Support this guy who thinks he can make a difference. Because guess what? There's 6 other people in Congress and they need a 7th in order to sustain a bill and keep it moving, in order to hold that place. Okay? So, for those of you that haven't worked in construction, there's an old saying about give me a big enough lever and I can move the world. Well, that's not exactly true, because you need somebody who can help you do that project. Go back to when the internet first started. There was a big thing, hoopla, that they're not going to need salespeople anymore because we have the internet. It's in the it's in the citations. Okay. And people believed that wholeheartedly and laid off their sales staff. Okay, a lot of those people went and did, it was actually kind of a blessing because they went and did what their heart always spoke to them about. And some of those are bigger than the companies they worked for and eventually bought them out. That's also in citation. Okay? Where the shift is happening. Across industries, executives are rediscovering the value of the inbox and the mailbox, not just the feed. Email remains the most consistently profitable marketing channel with one of the highest ROI ratios in the business world. Direct mail is a close second. There was a whole lot of printing companies that disappeared after that. But the ones that stuck around, the ones that made it, the ones that are doing print on demand, the other things, okay, they're doing pretty damn well. Here's a little perspective, okay? When I was a kid, I picked up the Dale Carnegie series, and one of the things I read was look at what the average person is doing and do the opposite, and you'll be successful. Okay? Because you're going to stand out versus what the other people are doing. So returning to the idea that you count. You count. Okay? And you count to me. That kind of connection, that kind of handshake, right, means a lot more. I have a dear friend who's a beautician. As far as I know, she never figured out how to do that online. Cut your hair on. Well, actually, I bet you they have like one of those laser printer things. Anybody want to volunteer to stick your head in the first one? Yeah, me neither. Okay? Yeah. When the business world crashed in 79 to 80, those relationships carried us. What mattered wasn't visibility. It was trust, consistency, and persistence. So let me tell you something. How many people listening to me right now believe those stars and the reviews that are written like poetry? Go ahead, I'll wait. Oh, nobody's raising their hand? Okay. So here's the thing, is the fake AI created reviews don't seem to get as much traction with people as the ones that I have go back to 1982. These are actual people who you can link and ask for yourself. Yeah. So here's the other part about that. There's been a lot of platforms that created this whole idea of getting some kind of contact going, and maybe they operated that way, but now you can't hardly believe it because they're making offers and things that are crazy. Like, pay me $10,000 and I'll show you how to make $1.50. I mean, come on. So you all have clients, customers, people who've done business with you, right? So go back to them and say, what did you like about me and would you write me a review? Then ask, hey, do you know of anybody else who might be interested in what I do? I mean, we all get dressed, we all haircut, we all eat, we all buy crafts, we buy gifts, right? So if there's anybody around you, best friend or not, somebody you know, maybe all they did was meet you when you sold them something. But if you have the tracking, go back and say, did you like it? Did you like it? Hey, could you give me a real review? And oh, by the way, do you happen to know anybody else that might be interested in this? Hey, can I do a wine and cheese party at your house where I bring my gifts, where I bring the things that I do? Okay, so you only need to get about 60. You've already had more than that if you're in business, right? So what you need to do is do like the old fishbowl technique where you got business cards and you contacted somebody. I'm asking you to make your own little mini fishbowl 2.0. You've got a little teeny bit of time, and I'm going to post this along with the references and everything on Substack. And you can find out about me on harrisforsenate.com. I've taken 4 businesses that were hobby businesses for people and turned them into international companies. This is called relationship marketing. Only I'm really good at it, and I'm not standing in front of a rented Lamborghini and telling you, pay me for this. I'm saying you already have everything you need. You have what you need. You need to just use what you have. So you have clients that love you, right? Maybe they don't love you. Maybe they just like you. Okay, get a few referrals from them and then contact those people and say, Crystal told me to call, or Joe told me to call, or Mike told me to call. This is what I do. Can I share it with you? Well, most likely those are friends. So we all have gone out with friends. Maybe it's been a while, and I'm going to start doing more of that again. But you go out with a friend, and somebody says, man, I saw this great movie. I saw this phenomenal movie. You're going to go, pfft. Are you? Are you going to go, awesome? So you're probably going to go see it. Well, guess what? The people that already do business with you already regard you, at least in a friendly way. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given you money. Okay? Tell me if this doesn't make any sense to you. Okay? But the people who've already given you money might know somebody else who wants to give you some more money. Somebody might have said, ooh, that's a really cool thing of a jiggy bobbin thing. Okay, whatever it was that you made. Okay, so once you get a regular, like 60 people who have done business with you, who've all given you referrals, let's say they give you 4 referrals. That means that you have 120. You have 240 referrals. What algorithm is better than that? You call people up, you invite them to a party, you invite them to something else, you do something else, you do something, but it's a contact. It's a warm contact. It's another human being that you get to reach out to. Okay? It doesn't matter what the algorithm says. Does it? Ta-da! Do that again. Okay, so anyway, folks, so I'm here with my crew, and I'm telling you, so the people I'm running against don't stand a chance. They think the internet still works. Okay? We're going out and we're meeting people one-on-one. And when I give somebody a card, the people around them usually grab 6. I am going to be the next senator of New Hampshire. You can find out about me on harrisforsenate.com. But I'm a guy who actually knows how to work. Go to work. Okay? The people in Congress seem to be able to cash a check. Okay? You can find out this information in detail. Okay? You can also go to my website, which is at shamansdreamgifts.com, and look to my books, and there's a couple of free ones there. You know, when you have more than enough, you're willing to give it away. That's who I am. I'm not trying to draft out of you. I'm not. By the way, these things that we need to fix in our society, the funds are already there. They've just been appropriated to go into somebody else's pocket. Okay? Well, I'm going to make sure it don't go in the pocket and goes to what it's supposed to do. But, oh. See, I got so much of this. It's falling all over the place. Okay. So, I'm going to be back on later, and we're going to be talking about this. But I want you to understand who this is. Okay, I'm somebody who's worked for a living from the time I started my first company when I was 14 with a push mower and a rake, and by the time I was 19, I had 9 crews running. The name of the company was Alderwood Tree and Lawn, based in Alderwood Manor, Washington, or Everett, Washington. And I could sit here and give you a resume since then about getting it done, about sticking at it, about keeping it going. I'll put mine up against anybody that's running against me, because I got nothing to fear, because I've already seen their resumes. If you want to have somebody who's a partner, who really is one of you, instead of the 3-generation rich family that never had to worry about whether they could buy diapers or groceries that week. If you want somebody who's had to work it out, somebody who had to get it done, you're looking at him. harrisforsenate.com. You can go and find my research papers, my white papers, my published papers, as well as some information about the 9 books that I've published at substack.com. Here's the little frame box thing you need to do, and see how technically advanced I am? But I've been able to get stuff done, and I'm going to do it in the Senate. Namaste, and I hope that you have a beautiful day. I really do. I hope that you get all that you need. I hope your life is filling your life with so much abundance you can't stand it. If not, here's a couple of answers. Love you all. Namaste.